Let's move on to the actual meat and potatoes of the show. Gables, do you want to do what we've been playing first or the news?
You know what? Honestly, let's do what we've been playing first. We haven't done that in a while.
Okay. Do you want to go first or want me to go first?
You know what? I'm gonna go first for this time around.
Okay.
So, since the last time I recorded, there have been a couple of games I have wrapped up in a bow. One of them has been a long-running game I've been playing for the past couple months. Fire Emblem Three Houses. I have finally finished the Blue Lion route. And my god, this playthrough was even longer than my first playthrough with the Black Eagle route. To put into perspective of things, the first time I played the game, I chose the Black Eagle route. I spent roughly close to 70 hours playing that Black Eagle route.
Jesus.
Now, after everything was all said and done, finishing the Blue Lions route, a combination between both of those files, I had spent close to around 170 hours playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. And to put even more into perspective, you take that 70 away, and pretty much I spent close to 100 hours playing the Blue Lions route. Unintentionally, mind you. I took it like one step at a time with this. Like, it was a slow burn, this process. I basically tried out all the different characters. I loved a bunch of the character development inside the game. The character classes was fun. Even after I finished the main game, even after I finished the Blue Lions route and got like the various parts of the story done, I still want more of this game. But at the same time, I look at it from the perspective of, oh hey, I've been playing this game for such a long time. And I kind of need a break from this game for a while because, well, it's very rarely that I play through a game multiple times inside of 1 year, let alone back to back. So, at this point in time, I've finished Fire Emblem Three Houses, at least two routes, the Black Eagle route and the Blue Lions route. Maybe down the line I'll delve into the game again when there's like another like desert or like just long stretch period where there's no major releases. But I have thoroughly enjoyed my experience with the game. There's a lot of things I've already said about the game already, but let's just say this. This is definitely one of the best games of the year. I don't say that lightly. I played through a whole bunch of different games every year. Even though they end up becoming like replayable games that I do tend to go back to again and again. The thing about it is, this game was concrete from beginning to end quality. The amount of content you go through, the characters you meet, the story was alright in terms of what you could do, but there's so many branching parts to what you can do. Quintessentially, you pick a route, you get to a certain extent, like a middle point of the game, and then all of a sudden you make choices, and then you go and you just play the rest of the game as see fit. Quintessentially, there's like 4 campaigns, pretty much, altogether, if you really want to get technical. You have the Black Eagle route, you have the Blue Lions, the Golden Deer, and also the Church of Saros. So it's like you have 4 different paths you could potentially go on too. And even after finishing the Blue Lions route, I don't feel like I got the rest of the actual story in and of itself. And I'm just thinking to myself, what the hell has what I'm missing something here. I feel like I'm missing something still. And that's one of the worst feelings in general when you're playing a game where it's like, it literally gives me a flashback when I first played through Symphony of the Night for the first time, and it's like, I go through, run it for Blockbuster, beat the game, which I thought I beat the game, but I end up getting the worst ending because I could not find the Holy Glasses. And I end up beating Richter Belmont and getting the worst ending. So, it's that type of revelation where you go onto the internet and read what actually happened, and you're like, oh shit, there's another castle I have to investigate. I'm like, no wonder why. And, oh, that feeling. And by the way, yes, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is also one of my favorite games of all time. One of my top favorites. So, oh. With that said and done, it's like the core emphasis of what I'm trying to say is there's still so much to do inside this game. But at the same time, I want to play something else. I need to get my mind off of Fire Emblem Three Houses, because if I don't take a break or get away from this game now, I am going to be burnt out and sick of this game. I know that for a fact. So that brings me to the next game that I tied a bow on, and that's Untitled Goose Game.
Nice.
Like I said before, those two games were pretty much what I played over the past couple of months. And Untitled Goose Game, man. Oh man, I finished the last portion of the game. And that final part. Oh my gosh, that final part was so interesting. It was so funny. I don't know if you've actually beaten it either, Tyler.
No, not yet. I need to get back to it though.
That last section had me in stitches. Quintessentially, here I am. I managed to infiltrate a restaurant. I go forth. I steal somebody's hat. I go forth, and it's like the dude is like playing his harmonica, right? I go and I'm just like stalking him for a bit. He goes up. He picks up a dart. He tosses up the dartboard. I honk, and all of a sudden he breaks the dartboard. Although I'm just going honk, 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 honk. No, but here's the thing. One of my favorite parts for that section was you have to get the dude that's guarding the front all the way to the back end, right? So what I basically had to do in order to try to do something is basically I took a tomato from the back end of this restaurant. I put it in the center floor. And I went all the way up to the front. And I basically went up to the dude that was trying to chase me off the premises. I'm like, honk, honk. And he goes and he just follows me and I run. I run to the back and stuff like that. I go underneath the friggin' thing and he loses sight of me. And he sees his tomato, right? So he goes forth, he picks up tomato. And he goes forth and he goes to the back room. And as he's doing that, I'm climbing my way upwards. And I'm going to a higher vantage point. I can actually see the dude going through, putting the tomato back inside the crate. He's all crouched over, and all of a sudden a little notification pops. It pops up while I'm getting close to the edge right here. It's like, oh, should I tip the bucket? And so, all of a sudden, I tip the bucket. The bucket goes on the guy's head. He goes, oh, oh. And all of a sudden, I just go, honk. And he just goes, he just falls over and he just, and he just smashes tomato juice all over his pants. Oh, that sequence of love made me laugh so hard because, oh, it's like all throughout this game, it's like, I have enjoyed myself just totally just being an asshole. Just every sense of the word. Never have I played a game where I felt so much joy in just causing other people misery. And that's pretty much Untitled Goose Game in a nutshell. And it's just hilarious just to think about it. Now, it's terrible of me to actually say that, enjoying the misery of others, but at the same time, it's like, it's sort of like, there's like a specific type of viewpoint I could take with that in terms of life, where it's like, everybody, they have their own types of sob stories. They have their types of like misery or types of like downtrodden things that they're going through and everything else. But some of the most important things you got to realize is sometimes you just got to tread your own way and find your own fun around stuff, because at the end of the day, you have to go forward and actually enjoy your life, right? And so when I'm playing the Untitled Goose Game, that's kind of like some of the feeling I'm actually getting, you know, where it's like, even though I'm just antagonizing people as the goose and like just causing all sorts of havoc and stuff and like wrecking models, stealing bells, like getting a little hat or something for accomplishing all goals. Which, you know what, that's so fucking funny that you can do that. But yeah, you know what, that's Untitled Goose Game. It's still one of the number one sellers on the eShop, and for good reason too, because that game is fantastic. But yeah, that's
good.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing.
Cool. I need to get back into it. It's kind of fallen on the wayside because I'm playing other stuff, but I know I'm fairly close to beating that game. I just need to sit down and hunker down
Yeah,
and
you
do
do.
it. But I played a couple games and also beat a couple games this week. I talked about the last couple of shows already, but Wolfenstein's Youngblood, I beat that game. It's funny. It's like kind of my new thing now. Is I talk about I'm on the last boss of the game.
Yeah.
And like 5 minutes after the show's over, I beat the game.
This is like your second episode in a row that you've done that.
Yeah, I did Link's Awakening and now Wolfenstein Youngblood. So I ended up beating that game. Like I said, I've talked about enough already, but kind of wrap it up. I came in with low expectations. I think if I would have played it closer to launch, or going in there expecting like more of a Wolfenstein, a lesser than Wolfenstein, but still Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
I think I would have came away a little more disappointed. But going in there knowing what to expect with the RPG and leveling stuff, and I don't know the character. I don't know, just going in there with all that RPG mechanics and knowing all this, and it's more level based. I think definitely helped with my expectations of it. A little lower. I was like, I wonder if I'm gonna like this game, and I actually liked it quite a bit. It's it's a nice budget title. I think it's like $20-$30, like I said before. It's fun. It's if you want more, if you want something that's Doom-esque or Wolfenstein-esque, this is it for you. Killing Nazis is always fun. And the leveling up, some of the skill trees you can unlock is great. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with the game. It was fun. Like it was kind of one of those mindless shooter games, almost to like a Call of Duty-esque. Like where the characters aren't as great to me in this game as they are in like Wolfenstein, but I still enjoyed them. The sisters are kind of annoying, but I don't know. It's just fun to play. Like the characters, like the cutscenes and stuff like that, are very few and far between. But just the moment-to-moment gameplay is really great. It's kind of the opposite of the issue with Rage 2, where like playing Rage is a lot. Rage 2 was a lot of fun, but you rarely got to play Rage 2 because you were dealing with like driving from place to place, doing nothing in those times, or talking to characters because they wanted to be more like a Borderlands type of game, and they just weren't that. But I think the gameplay of Rage 2 is better than a Borderlands type of game. But this, like I said, it's the opposite, where it's like it's 90% gameplay, 10% story, and cutscenes and stuff like that. So yeah, it was fun. Like you can probably find it cheap nowadays, even cheaper than what it already is. I think it's only like $20-$30 already. So if you're looking for something like that, it's definitely, I think, a pickup at this point. But maybe go in there, read a little bit about it, just kind of know what you're expecting. Don't expect just more Wolfenstein 2 on a smaller scale, because it's not that. The other game I beat, I finally finished. I played episode 3 and 4 of Walking Dead's final season from TellTale.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was looking at my trophies, and it gives you the dates on it. I played episode 1 last August, and I played episode 2 back in May. And it's kind of been a rocky road, obviously, with TellTale. Like they're back, kind of, sort of, but the name is back, but the company's not what it was. But it's funny. Like it's just, I don't know if it's funny, but it's just crazy how this whole thing has kind of come and gone with Walking Dead, where it's like episode 1 was okay, episode 2 was, I remember I didn't even play episode 2 right away, and like not too long after it came out, like I think like the week after it came out, like the company closed, and I was like, well, I don't even know if, like, what's the point of me playing it, because they're not even gonna finish the season. And it wasn't a very good episode anyways from the reviews and stuff that came out from it. And then, bringing it back, stuff like that. And it's been on the back burner, obviously, trying to play through some other games. But like I said, I finally hunkered down, played it. And I literally beat it like 2 hours ago as of this recording time.
Wow. And
I'm still in the process of like getting my thoughts together on it. I don't know. It's like it's the end of Clementine's story. It's the last, as far as we know, Walking Dead Telltale game. But it was I was a little more emotionally hit than I thought I would be by it. Because I thought like Walking Dead season 1 it's the thing that made Telltale, and it's also like they peaked there, and they've never, like, I think for me personally, Tales of the Borderland and Batman season 1 got close to that, but like for the rest of the stuff they put out has been so or better than average. And we've seen so many other companies do stuff like this now with the episodic titles that I've done overall, maybe not to the level of Walking Dead Season 1, but overall do a better job and be more consistent, whether it's releasing episodes in a timely fashion or not so buggy, or just the content itself is really good. And I felt like, Season 1 was obviously one of the greatest games to me of all time. Season 2 was pretty good. Season 3 was we don't need to talk about Season 3. And then this one's been kind of wonky. Like, so kind of the story is, spoilers for the first 3 seasons, but it's been, the first Season 3 finished in like 2016, so if you had plenty of time to play it. So obviously Season 1 you play as Lee, and he's raising Clementine when she's like 7 or 8, and then Lee dies in the Season 1. So then Season 2 you play as Clementine now. I think it's been like a year. Now she's like 9 or 10. And then two of the characters in your group have a kid together, but the parents die around the time the kid's born. His name is AJ. And then Season 3 is like somewhere between 2 and 3. Clementine's like raising AJ, and some people take AJ away from her. And it's been a couple of years. It's been a few years now. She's like, I don't know, 12, 13, something like that. And it's about her trying to get AJ back. And then Season 4, and there's more to it than all this, but this is kind of like the crux of Season 4, the final season. And Season 4 is you have AJ back, and now Clementine's a teenager. Like, she's like 14, 15, 16 years old. And now she's taking the role of Lee, essentially, in this case, where Lee was trying to raise Clementine in this world of zombies, and that was when the zombie apocalypse first happened. Now it's been I don't know how long, 8-10 years of zombies now, and now Clementine is forced to have this same situation with AJ, who's now probably 5 or 6 years old. Because I don't think they ever see actual ages, but I'm sure if I looked it up I could find it, but I just haven't. And she's trying to like teach him, also trying to survive, but also trying to figure out, teach him like what's wrong and right about this crazy world where everything's gray. And like I said, she kind of takes the role of Lee, and it feels like they're trying to like bring back the things that made Season 1 great, with more, some of the characters they have in the group, and obviously with the Lee Clementine dynamic now being AJ and Clementine, but it doesn't hit. I feel like because this one, like, you find a school for like troubled kids, and there's a bunch of kids that are at the school, and you're trying to, you basically in the end become like, after like fairly early on, you become the leader of this as a group, kind of not even on purpose, but accidentally become the leader of this. Like, they all look to you for survival, and like the characters don't hit like they do. And I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if like Season 1 was just because it came out of nowhere. Like, Walking Dead was at its peak at that point, I think, where it was the TV show was just hit. The comics were huge, and then the TV show just hit, so it came next levels. But probably the most popular thing in television and all of entertainment at that point in time was Walking Dead. And then you had this awesome game come out with it too. That was completely different than I think like myself and a lot of people I've never seen before with this episodic adventure style. And sometimes I wonder if like where our expectations are too high, or we look at Season 1 a little too highly. But I played through it a couple years ago again, and I thought it was still fantastic. So I'm kind of in that weird stage where like, am I looking at it with like that rose-colored glasses, or is it really as good as I remember it being? And I don't know. Like I said, they tried to encompass, I think, what Season 1 was with some of the characters, what they try to do, and I just feel like the characters don't hit. They're not great. I don't know. A couple of them are okay, but they don't really stand out. AJ is kind of like, and it's on purpose, I think, but it's just he's like the Anakin Skywalker of like, in a ways where like of the Star Wars prequels, where he's just an annoying little asshole to me. And it's kind of the point of it, where it's like, because he doesn't, he's a kid. When he was born, the zombie apocalypse has been going on for years, and he's like trying to figure out like, because at the end of episode 1, spoiler alert for an episode that came out over a year ago, he kills somebody, and it wasn't like it's kind of like, it wasn't like a life or death situation that we know of. Like, we don't really know what could have happened in the outcome. And it's just like him dealing with that. Like, was this right? Was this wrong? And should I have killed this person? Should I have not killed this person? Things that he's trying to deal with that, and deal with like, you know, in Clementine's like watching Clementine's actions about how she deals with situations like killing people, not killing people, sparing lives, just whatever she does in general. And I think that idea is really great, but I think AJ as a character is fucking annoying, and I don't like him at all. And but like the one redeeming quality of this whole season was and is Clementine to me. She's like she's the main character, so it makes sense. And that's the most important character to hit is Clementine. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm still trying to process my thoughts on it. I'm happy I played through it. Like it definitely hit me emotionally more than I thought it would, especially at the end, the last little bit of it. But I don't know. It's definitely like part of me like you really could just play season one. I feel, and then like just pretend the story's over there, and you might be better off because it only goes down from there. But I don't know. Like cause season two was okay. Like season two was better when I played through it the second time than I remember it being, but it still wasn't great. But I felt like even with seasons 2 and 3, they weren't great, but they started and ended. Like the first and last episodes were really, really good, but like the middle was terrible. And this one, I felt like it never really got great at any point in time. It just became kind of mediocre across the board. Never really bad, but just never really great. Just kind of in the middle. So I don't know. I feel like if you're someone that's already played the first 3 seasons, or you like this, like definitely check it out. It's only 4 episodes. You can probably beat it 7-8 hours, but I don't know. Like it's tough because I love it's Lee and Clementine are 2 of my favorite characters in video game history, especially Lee. And it's cool to see him. He comes back in some flashbacks, but I don't know. Like it's frustrating because this is the end of TellTale. This is really the end of TellTale as we know it because they brought that team back, the still not bitten team, to finish the season. And it just, I was hoping, like I wanted, like this is like that, like that Cinderella story of like here's this like this fledgling company, they bring them back and like they're gonna fucking kill it, and they just kind of came out and it's just like it's just more of the same, it just sucks, especially because you've seen how good they can be still outside of Walking Dead with like Batman and with Tales of the Borderland, and it just doesn't hold a candle to any of those games. So yeah, I beat that. Like I said, I got extra life plans I'm going to jump into next, but yeah, that's what I've been playing this week. But Gables, we're going to jump into our news for the week.
All right.
So first up, we'll get through some of the faster stuff first, because I don't think any of us have too much to say on it. But Last of Us 2 has now been delayed from February 21st of next year to May 29th of next year. Kind of crazy to think that just over a month ago they gave out the release date, and they've already pushed it back about what was that 3 months, a little more. I know like this is my most anticipated game of the year by far. I know it's early, we haven't got to 2020 yet. We don't know what's coming. We got the new consoles coming, but yeah, it's weird with delays because it's like it sucks. You're really upset about it. You're disappointed in it. Like Doom just got delayed a couple weeks ago, but it's like you understand. It's like you'd rather have that fantastic game. In 5 years, you're gonna look back more fondly at this game. You're gonna forget all the delays they had for it. And they talked about with like Last of Us 1, they got delayed the last like a month before this was come out. It got delayed like 6 weeks, and that 6 weeks they said was a huge difference in making that game from good to an all-time great game. But I don't know. What's your sentiment for the level for this game? And I don't know how are you feeling about it?
It makes sense that they want to push back the date. Honestly, when was it originally supposed to release? February?
Yeah, February 21st.
February 21st. Isn't that month kind of a little bit heavy upon releases as well in that regard?
Yeah, February and March is just absolutely insane. You got Doom, Final Fantasy VII. There was Last of Us. I forget a couple other things. There's a couple of games we're gonna talk about, but we had Gods and Monsters and Watch Dogs coming out at that point in time. Yeah, so March is still crazy, but it's not as crazy as it was.
So yeah, it definitely was a good step in the right direction because it gives the game its own identity with its own individual release date that is far and away from the busy fall, February, March schedule like Tyler was just touching upon. And at the same time, delaying a game, there are rarely times when delaying a game has been absolute garbage. this is not going to be garbage in the least, in my honest opinion. This is definitely for
Yeah.
quality control, kind of similar to what Doom Eternal, even though that kind of pissed me off that the game got delayed, but at the same point, Bethesda in and of itself is not at its best this year.
No, they
That's
it's
that
probably
is
for yeah, that's probably for the best for Bethesda. Like this is like their one saving grace right now is Doom Eternal. So them being delayed is
yeah.
probably a good thing.
Yeah, but the point being in this regard and stuff is delay. Yeah, it's good for it. It's good for The Last of Us 2 in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. And like it's not the first time like and maybe not the best example, but like Days Gone, like I think at the end of last year, beginning of this year, like it's just come on like I want to say February. It's that crazy day in like February, like 25th or something like that, where there was like 4 AAA, like Crackdown 3, I want to say Days Gone, Anthem maybe, and one of the game were all supposed scheduled to come out on the same day, and like Anthem came out like got pushed back like 2 weeks. Maybe it was Division. I don't remember. One game got pushed back until like mid March, and then Days Gone got pushed back until like mid or late April, and God of War same thing. Like a few months before it was supposed to come out, it was supposed to come out initially in the fall time. It got pushed out into the following spring. Like with PlayStation, as you can tell, they got a good track history of like they're not afraid to delay their games, and it's probably for a good thing. And I guess with this also, they said that this was Ghost of Tsushima's original release window, so that like game's being pushed back. So I'm kind of worried. I'm worried that game's gonna get lost now, because you're looking at like you were getting to like more into the busy season of video games with the holidays, and on top of that, we have new consoles coming out, and that game's gonna be a PS4 game, and they're supposed to be backwards because they've already said there's gonna be backwards compatibility, but like that game is gonna be like people are gonna buy PS5 and they're gonna want to play PS5 games, not PS4 games. So I'm curious how it's gonna affect that team. They're probably happy they got some more time, but also scared that like that game, depending on when it comes out, because you can't release that game in June when Last of Us, the biggest, maybe one of the biggest games, that PlayStation has. That game is going to come out at the end of the summer, probably like August, and that game can easily get buried in the hype for PlayStation 5.
Unless they want to go forth and save it as a PS5 release.
Yeah, that's. I think that would be the smartest move is make that like unless they got some crazy shit planned for the launch for launch of PS5 or the launch window. Maybe the best idea is just up-res it to a PS5 game. I don't know, but
honestly, the more I think about it, the more I see of the actual initial trailers of the Ghost of Tsushima, the more likely I kind of feel like that it's potentially going to be a launch title for PS5.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be the worst idea. Give them an extra few months and make that a PS5 launch game. I think it might be best for it. But also, like speaking of delays, I already kind of touched on it, but Ubisoft came out, and this kind of came back to like the Ghost Recon Black, I think it was called. Breakout, sorry. That came out, and it just kind of came out just earlier this month, and nobody's talking about it. There's a lot of issues with the game. It's not working
for good
great.
reason, too. Nobody's talking about it because the game is fundamentally broken, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. So it came out, all those issues, and they even came out and said it was the launch was a disaster. And at the same time, they announced the delays of Gods and Monsters, which is like that Breath of the Wild, Assassin's Creed Odyssey type of game that I really looking forward to just based off the sound of it. Was supposed to come out February 25th. Now is being pushed. Everything, all these games are being pushed between April 2020 and March 2021. So I don't think they're coming out.
Ubisoft was heavily banking upon Ghost Recon Breakpoint to be their live service sort of game that's going to tide them over all the way to the end of their fiscal year. Yeah. But, well, actually, near the end of the first quarter of their fiscal year. But, yeah, it didn't turn out that way because quality of the game kind of the same as what it was for like Ghost Recon Wildlands, only take out a lot of the exploration and sort of the ports, and instead it's sort of like a lot of the blandness of those like missions and stuff. But the thing that Breakpoint suffers the most from what initially that I've been seeing gameplay footage of and from the reviews that I've read, that I've seen personally, is there's just a lot of failure to launch sort of things where there's been times where connection to the servers online has been issues, I mean, we're talking about like even like on a single player aspect, where if you're playing the game, there's connection issues, and that's pretty much what's heavily led a lot of people to not only just review bomb the game, but also for the friend of fact that the game in and of itself is pretty bland. That's just the big emphasis that I'm getting away from it, you know. Without having played it personally, I can't really verify, but all I can. The truth being, the matter is, a lot of people don't like how Breaking Point has quintessentially is, and a lot of people kind of view it as a disappointment in
Yeah.
comparison to, say, Wildlands. I can understand that, but yeah, Ubisoft was banking very heavily of that thing being a seller, and with the failure of that, along with the Division 2, they have lost. They actually had, and I'm not kidding you, over the last day, while I was reading some reports, they had to reduce their financial forecast by 90% of their
Jesus.
fiscal thing. Yeah, because they lost so much in terms of oncoming profits from their game being banked as a live service thing that was going to go through reduced stuff. You know?
Yeah. That's too bad because from everything I've heard, Division Two is actually a pretty good game.
Yes.
It's just I think the
It
kind
was
of like
just,
go
it's a
ahead.
good, apparently, Division 2 was supposed to be like a good game, but commercially it was just kind of a flop, not a lot of
Yeah.
glowing
Well, it sold
advertising.
well. It's just it's yeah it's I think it's like the sixth best selling game of the year. So,
Right.
which I think most games would be happy with, but that game was probably they figuring they'd be one of the two or three best selling games of the year. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of like Ubisoft's been killing it for years. Like they've actually put out some really good live service games and also some really good, some, double A type of games. I think personally, they've been one of my favorite developers for a little while, and this year they've been a little lackluster. With Division Two, like I was really hyped for Division 1. Everybody knows that, like, because my game of the show, 2 years in a row at E3, and I tried playing. Even went back about a year or so ago and tried playing through it, and I just like it just didn't stick. Um, and yeah, it's kind of. I even played Ghost Recon Wildlands after listening to Gables platinum that game. I'm like, I should probably try this game out. And it just it didn't stick. But yeah, it's kind of disappointing to hear that going on because you don't want to hear like like went from being there like the top of the third party studios to now like they've had a lot of issues. We'll get into that here in a minute. But now you see Ubisoft trying to take a step back into like both like everybody's creeping closer and closer to EA, which we don't want. Um,
That's very
and
true.
same with Blizzard, even still with all the shit going
Yeah.
with them. But on top of that, Gods and Monsters was supposed to be a February 25th release. Now it's being pushed back to sometime after April. Hopefully not too long after that because I really want to play that game. Um, Rainbow Six Quarantine, which didn't have a release date but it's supposed to come out early next year, has been pushed off. And then Watch Dogs Legions, which I don't know. I feel like the game, like no one's talking about that game. Even I know we got it's holiday season and everything like that, but like everybody was talking about it at E3, and I've heard nothing about that. No one talked about the game since then. But it was supposed to come out March 6th, and now it's being pushed off until somewhere in the springtime of next year. So we talk about just a lot there, but it seems like they're smartening it up a little bit. Or like EA, like they're no matter what that game has to come out before April. Like if there's a game coming out in March by EA, especially an online game, it's gonna be garbage. It's gonna be broken. There's gonna be a bunch of issues, i.e. SimCity, i.e. fucking Anthem, i.e. fucking Mass Effect Andromeda. Every year or two, they have a game that comes out in March, Dragon Age 2 that comes out in March, and it's fundamentally broken or it's not good, or there's so many issues with that game that should not have been released because they want to get out before the end of the fiscal year. And it's cool to see that Ubisoft they're willing to take those hits, and like same with PlayStation, they're willing to take I'm sure that all of these games they wanted out before the fiscal year, and it's just they realize it's for the best that they can't do it, so they push it off. And hopefully, they're being smart. They don't want to be EA, and be looked at like that. So, hope in the end for those games it works out. Like we don't really know much about Rainbow Six Quarantine. It's not my game. Rainbow Watch Dogs Legion. I have no interest in that game after loving Watch Dogs 2 and really like 1. But Gods and Monsters, like I've already said, really look forward to that game. But I'm glad to see they're willing to take the hit on that for their financial future, especially everything going on with them when they're nearly taken over just a year or two ago. But anything you want to talk about that before we move on, Gables?
Nope.
All right, coolio. Well, moving on to our last topic, and it's a bit of a doozy. Fallout first, Gables. One of the dumbest things to happen in gaming in a long time. Maybe it says ET. So Fallout first is the thing that's coming out for Fallout 76. It's a monthly subscription. You could pay $13 a month or $100 a year if you like to. That comes with the things that come with this service is you get access to private worlds, so you can have your friends. I think up to 7 friends. Yep, up to 7 friends join you in your private world to do whatever you want to do. There's an unlimited scrap box storage thing that you can do where you can take all your crafting components and you can stick them in the scrap box, so you don't have to worry about that. There's a survival tent which allows you to fast travel from certain points. Atoms, which is kind of their like fee to pay stuff where you can spend real money to get this. You get $1,650 every month. Not sure if that's a lot or not. I think it's like $10 worth. You get some armor and some emotes and icons, stuff like that every month. But the issue is with this, Fallout 76 is not a very good game. It's still fundamentally broken. They literally just last week delayed a bunch of content for it. And a lot of people were like pissed off about that, like stuff really looking forward to. Already delayed that, and then on top of that, the two biggest things that people want out of this service, the private worlds and the scrap box, don't work. People aren't able to get into your even though it's supposed to be a private world, people are still able to get into your game and play where you want to, or get into your game before you get into the game and do shit to your world. And the scrap box, people put their stuff in the scrap box, it just disappears.
Oh, the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting an entirely different result, but end up accomplishing the exact same thing. That's Fallout 76 in a nutshell. We know it's a terrible game. Bethesda knows that this game needs heavy improvements upon its subsequential stuff. And what did they do in the span of the last couple of weeks? Delay the content that they were going to initially bring out, introduce a subscription model for with an option of $100 a year. I mean,
yeah,
I'm still laughing about that. That is just insane.
Can I point out also, this is not a free game. It's still like $40 everywhere you look.
It's one of those games where you pay to start. You could actually go to your Walmart or go to your retailer right now, and they'll just have a slew of Fallout 76 for consoles. That's like down to at least $40 at least. And even so, you have to pay a subscription for this game if you want to play any longer. I mean, for God's sakes, you pretty much can go forth and play. Like, what? You can go forth and pay, like, around, what was it, $20 a month or something like that, or like $100 a year?
Yeah, $13 a month for $100
okay,
$13
$13 a month and $100 a year. But the point being, gamers know about the quality of Fallout 76. Bethesda knows about the quality of Fallout 76. There's hardly been anything done to this game for ever since it's released. Despite that, they still want to add on features. I mean, okay, admirable. You want to add on features and add on content to a game that you honestly and quite truthfully, I don't feel is going to be lasting more than another year. I mean, I could be wrong, but I kind of feel like that Fallout 76 is not going to be lasting for a lot longer than what people think it was going to be. But you give players these options for your subscription. You have like dedicated servers, private servers or something they could use for their own, and you have unlimited, like a place for all your limited scrap, but you fail on that level to the point where you're actually pissing off your fan base even more when a lot of their product that they're putting into your scrap is disappearing. The freaking thing is eating up all of the scrap that you were going to make for any type of solitary enjoyment. That is laughable. This is, quite honestly, this is pretty much on par with 2K games so royally messing up WWE 2K20 to the extent where all the glitches and all the stuff in that game kind of makes Fallout 76 look like freaking like a wonderland in that regards. But still, but still, this game, Fallout 76, when I read this news, it initially popped into my head the question that I was asking on Twitter, and some bit on Talking Ship's little Facebook page too. And it was like initially like a question that was just kind of like maybe danced around a little bit. There was definitely some good vital points, but the question is, it's like are we at the point as gamers where if a game releases and it works competently and stuff like that, would it be still it's like if it's not fundamentally broken or something, is that considered what we would consider now a good game? I mean, seriously. I mean, let's lay some facts on the table here. You have games like Fallout 76, Anthem, WWE 2K20, and any other list of AAA games, major AAA games that have released with all sorts of bugs, all sorts of things that have pretty much like kind of sullied the game in and of itself, you know, where major patches are needed, major improvements. But then you have other games that release that have had hardly any type of like issues with them, and people go through and play them, not have any type of bugs or any type of issues and stuff, and you know, that's just something I've just been pondering about recently, and it kind of just sparked it because of the whole news with Fallout 76. So it may just be me just thinking aloud or just drifting off topic, but I just can't fathom like how a developer like Bethesda can just go forth and just have a game in the condition that it's in, where people are paying for, and they're not even getting even a fraction of what they're supposed to be getting, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you on this, where it's just, it doesn't make sense, where it's like, the goal of them to ask for this after they just delayed a bunch of content that people were looking forward to, and then a game that has come out and just been dragged through the mud for over a year now with all of its issues. And it's like, we all know Fallout games, Skyrim games, or whatever they're called, Elder Scrolls games, sorry, they're always broken. But it's like, this is next level. It's like, it's online, and it's even worse. It's the worst Fallout game released under Bethesda's license, and they come out after all this, and now to charge for this, something that some people, like a lot of games, already have for free. It's just, it's so stupid. It's like, what happened to this company in the last 18 months? Where did they go wrong? What is they trying to do? Like, I don't, as far as I know, the same people, maybe I forgot something, but same people run this company that ran it 2 years ago. Like, what has changed with their mindset, where it's just, we talk about like all the shit they've released that has mediocre, Rage 2 mediocre, Wolfenstein mediocre, Fallout 76 completely broken, and now Fallout first. It's the Fallout 76 name is very apt for that game, because it's just one number for every fuck up this game's had with it. And
good point. Yeah.
It just blows my mind that they, like you talk about, like you made a good point, but like, are we just happy games to come out, they're not broken? And we just talk about all these games getting delayed, and it's like, I think there's some truth to that, yeah, but I don't know. I think it's something that we're used to now with these online games, where it's just like, yeah, there's gonna be issues with it, and I think like Division 2 was like the first big one to come out and not have issues with it. And we're like,
yeah, that's very true.
And people were actually like, there was issues, but it wasn't like completely broken, or like the servers were down completely for days and no one could get on. It's like, I don't know. It's just, it blows my mind, how many years are we doing this games as a service thing, live service games, and we still can't get it right. And those are the biggest issues, and unfortunately, they're some of the biggest titles that come out every year are those type of games. but they just want to do the Fortnite model, and it's just not working. But it's just I'm still. It's been over a week now, and I'm still stunned by this news, and I'm just like, what happened? It's like Bethesda was the king of the third parties out there. Like no one could touch them, and now it's just like they're up there with like Sony and Nintendo as far as like everything was great. All their games are great. There was never any issues like customer service. All their like everybody loved it.
Yeah, true.
And it's just like
true.
now it's just like like I was just talking about, like Ubisoft's taking a dip, and now Bethesda's fucking take a huge dip this year for now they're not much better than EA, I think, to a lot of people. And just with this one game with Fallout 76, and fortunately it's this biggest franchise that they have, but it's incredibly stupid that they thought that honestly, this would be okay.
And on a further point as well, you mentioned with Ubisoft with their failings and stuff that they've done this year, with games like Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and then like Bethesda with like their continuing support of Fallout 76, even though we know this thing's a dumpster fire, just a raging dumpster fire. A lot of those changes and a lot of those things has to do with just the modern landscape of the major AAA video game, to the extent where there are people that are adapting like the Fortnite model in some regards, but it's just the fact that this whole live service garbage is just so like corporately, like in a corporate sense, it makes sense maybe to the companies. They want to have a game to where they want it to last for such a long time and have people pay for what certain things that you may take for granted, like different costumes, different like DLC levels and this and that and stuff. But in reality, there are games that just don't fit this whole live service model at all. I mean, major single-player games that you would have maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you would have been having like a straight package or something like that, and then were able to play it without having things like randomly taken out or even randomly connect online or something in order to play them. And especially for like the multiplayer landscape, where it's like you have like major companies, like 2K, like EA, Activision Blizzard, Bethesda, Ubisoft, all these major companies have royally fucked up in terms of either one way or another of a game's live service releases, or even their like consistency, because at the end of because the moral of the story, they all want to try to get not just a lot of the money, not just like most of it. They want to try to get as much profit as they can from a project, and in a way, it is sacrificing the quality of a lot of the games that they are releasing, with shoehorning these things into effect. That has caused a lot of this like sinking sort of feeling, or the sinking of quality in terms of games in like a major sense. So, in an aspect, you want to understand why Bethesda is all of a sudden has this sort of like dip, or Ubisoft has this sort of dip. Just blame Activision Blizzard, EA, and all the other major AAA companies that just want to emulate live service models so they can get any type of money that they can from the consumer by charging anything possible,
Yeah, it seems it's just stupid and it's arrogant what they're doing.
It is, yeah,
and it's sad, and it's just, I feel like not only have they hurt the Bethesda brand, they've hurt. More importantly, maybe too, because I'm sure a lot of people out there that play Fallout, love Fallout, don't even know who Bethesda is. They've damaged the Fallout brand.
They have.
So it's by far up there with Elder Scrolls, their most important IP they have, and it's just something that they can't. When they come back with their next game, whether it's Fallout or Elder Scrolls or whatever, like they're gonna have they need to. It can't come out in the state they've been coming in. It's always like they're broken and they're buggy, but it's charming. It's like it's no longer charming. It's no longer cute. It's like we've seen great games do this, like and especially when a week when Outer Worlds comes out and blows people away. It's getting positive reviews. Everybody loves it. Mm-hmm. It's just like on top of that, it's like you chose to release this thing this week. It's like, you picked probably the worst week you can really to announce this thing. The week somebody comes out and releases a better version of your game.
Yep,
That's not broken and buggy. It's like you guys, you found every which way you could to fuck this up. You did nothing right in this whole scenario, and everything they're getting they deserve, and it's too bad because it's something that could easily have been avoided, and it's just greed. It feels like an arrogance took over, and this is what we get. But Gables, I think that's going to wrap up our show for the week.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to hear more from us, we have a Facebook page and group, Drunk Dashers Podcast. Like and join us on there. On Twitter at Drunk Nerds Pod. Follow us on there. On YouTube, Drunk Dash Nerds. Subscribe, please. Give us a big thumbs up. Leave us a comment on our show. On iTunes, Drunk Dashers Podcast. Subscribe, please. Give us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment. And then Twitch.tv/Colonel Gables. Follow him on there. I'm sure he's going to do some streaming during this weekend on Extra Life. And also on Spotify. Check us out on there, Drunk Dashers Podcast. Follow us on there. And if there's a way to leave a review, do that too. Once again, I was your host. I was Tyler.
And I've been Colonel Gables, so until next time, everyone, have yourself a fun week. And most importantly of all, thank you for listening to another fun-filled episode of the Drunk Dash Nerds Podcast.
And hey, Gables.
Yep.
Too sweet.
Too sweet, man.
Bye, guys.
See ya.